Do you think anything is possible inside of Sin City, Las Vegas? I believe what God is doing is that he's bringing people together under the spirit of unity to display that anything and everything is possible through him. This is Las Vegas United. Well, hello, Las Vegas. How are you doing? My name is Dauda Presley. I have the pleasure of being your host here at Las Vegas United, where we come on and we begin to talk about the things that God is doing inside of our communities. We want to thank you for tuning in on Keen 17, also too on our CTN Las Vegas YouTube channel. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me so that way you receive the notifications every time we post something. And with that being said, speaking of posting, speaking of coming up on here and speaking about what's going on inside of our community, I have a special guest with me today, Sean Wright. What's going on, my friend?
Dauda? How you doing, man?
I'm good, I'm good.
Thank you so much, dude. This is an honor to be here. And not only just what CTN represents, Las Vegas United, but also with my good friend Dauda. So.
Oh man, come on, man! You make me blush. You know, I'm too fair-skinned for that. But no, man, super excited that you're up on here with us and everything. And so, with that being said, before we go any further, because we brought you up on here to talk about something very, very important. I believe that every leader, every person can benefit from this, right? But before we get to that, I want everybody to know just who Sean Wright is, like the man, the father. The man after God, like who? Let us know. Let everybody know who you are.
Absolutely. So, man, first off, I'm a husband. We're going on 21 years of marriage.
Woo, come on, man.
Heck yeah. Me and my wife, high school sweethearts.
Yes.
And marriage is a struggle. Marriage is beautiful. Marriage is awesome.
Yes, it is, man.
And so I'm blessed for that. I have 3 amazing kids, 2 teenagers in high school, my young boys, and then I have my daughter who's in college.
Ooh.
I know I'm old. So.
don't do that now. Don't.
Right.
I'm a little older than you. Don't do that to me.
No. But one of the things is I used to be a pastor here in Vegas for a long time, and then hit rock bottom, burnout, right? Burnout, which we're going to talk a lot about today.
Absolutely.
And then went back to fishing. Not necessarily literal, but I went back to the medical field, and now I'm a chief operating officer of a CPR instructional company here in town. We get to teach everyone else how to save lives.
Come on, man. Come on, man. And speaking of saving lives, you talked about something as far as burnout.
Yeah.
In regards to when a leader has hit the wall.
Yeah.
Where the even the thought of continuing it brings upon anguish.
Absolutely.
Right. Even saying, hey, I'm gonna push through it. It's like I don't have the fire to push through anymore. Right.
Or momentum.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is a lot of times, what people don't realize is burnout is a lot more than just your emotions, right? But it's also a lack of momentum. I just heard just the other day that a freight train, big, huge freight train going down the trail tracks, comes up to a brick wall, 5 feet deep brick wall, and it'll still blow through it. Why? Because it has momentum. That same train on a track with just a little pebble down in front of its wheel, and all of a sudden now it can't go.
Comes to a complete stop.
Right? And so it's not just that emotion and that feeling and that fire, but it's also the lack of momentum. It's just to be able to move and go.
Right.
Absolutely. And then the guilt. You feel guilty, especially, see, if you get burned out in your place of business, right, and you're in the corporate world, right, you start to battle and you're like, okay, that's fine, that's one thing. It's your income, it's your other thing, right? But when it comes to church, when it comes to religious leaders especially, there's a feeling of guilt. There's a feeling of shame, like, wait. I know God's got me. I know God's going to call me. And he's put me into this. He would not bring me here for me to fall in this way, right? And so I know that burnout not only comes to an effect of what you're going through, but also just then it isolates you in guilt and shame. But burnout affects so many people who are not willing to talk about it. So if you have, let's say, 70% of the population being affected by something, you're not alone.
Right.
Why don't we talk about this?
Right.
The corporate world is doing better at talking about burnout than the church.
Right.
And that should not be, right?
It shouldn't be, because when it comes down to the church, right, the ecclesia, right, when it comes down to the body, we need to, right, is look at the total person concept, right, understanding and looking at how people are emotionally, how people are mentally, how people are physically, how people are spiritually, right? It's one of those deals like, you know me, I'll send you a text, right? And I'll be like, hey, bro, how are you doing spiritually? How are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing physically, right? Because I want to check in every part of a person. I believe this is what, as far as what you're doing now and everything, because based off of experience and everything, and even much more, it's like, hey, I don't want anybody to even hit this place, right? But also, too, let's have healthy conversation. Let's have a healthy dialogue about what this looks like, no longer ignoring it, not saying it doesn't exist. It's like, hey, you know what? The corporate world is actually meeting this head on because they want their CEOs, they want their CFOs, they want their presidents and vice presidents to be healthy mentally, right? Healthy emotionally, right? To where they're leading effectively. Now, what if we were to take that, like you and you're in the organization that you're part of, you guys are taking that and saying, hey, what does this look like from the aspect of faith? Right? What does this look like? Not just saying, hey, God has me, but like, God truly has every aspect of me.
Absolutely.
If I am honest and open and vulnerable and transparent with my prayer, also too with each other, right? So let's talk about that just a little bit in regards to, because I believe somebody might be watching, right? That they know that they're right there. And we want to get that person. We want to get that leader. We want to get that pastor. So pastors, if you are watching this, perk your ears up on this right here, because it might be beneficial, not just for you, but also too for me. If you find yourself in leadership, even in the corporate world, and you're watching this could be for you too. This is the total person concept, because God is not just after just like one aspect. He says, love me with all of your heart, all of your mind, all of your soul, and all of your strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So he's like, hey, I want every aspect of who you are. And this is what we're talking about, right? So when it comes down to burnout and someone approaching that, what are some signs that any person needs to be looking out for in regards to self-awareness before we get to someone outside looking at what is the self-awareness aspect of saying, this is what this looks like for a person inside?
Absolutely. I mean, now coming from the medical field, getting more to the body, right? Which was created, right? But that body has certain chemicals in it, and those chemicals are released depending on certain situations. Right? Oxytocin, serotonin, right? Which I love those two specifically because they require other people, right? That you can't get those by yourself, right? And oxytocin is going to be able to help bring down, joy. That's where you experience joy. That's where you feel loved. You feel warmth, right? That's a long hug, right? A sweet kiss, an embrace. It's a handshake, right? That touch, that physical touch, that ability to feel loved, right? So if you think about it, the opposite of that is what? It's cortisol. Right, cortisol is now. It's important to have, right? It's one of those fight or flight responses. It sparks your adrenaline. You're ready to go, ready to fight. You're ready to run if you have to, right? Think of the old gazelles and the same thing, right? Lion, right? It's the same concept.
Danger,
exactly, right? They need to respond. They need to respond. The thing is it's good for our body in short instances. And when you are to a place where you don't have certain things lined up to replenish you, you don't have certain things to make sure that you're not burned out, what happens is cortisol is running rampant. All of a sudden now, you don't trust anybody. Now, a great thing about, or not great thing, but the opposite of that is the fact that cortisol literally blocks oxytocin. So if that's the case, then you don't feel loved. You feel alone, isolated, right? Pastors on stage, smiling, leading a message, feeling embraced by God and loved by God, but at the same time, feeling alone, feeling like no one they can trust, no one understands them, nobody knows, and yet at the same time, feeling guilty and shameful to even say, I'm going and praying, and yet I'm still tired. Right? Cortisol, when it's consistent like that, also drains your immune system. You don't feel well. Right. I mean, I remember waking up one day and literally going, I'm going to go to the doctor. What's wrong? I feel I'm operating at 60% of what I normally do. Right. Something's wrong. Scan me for cancer. Scan me for this. I'm starting to figure out like what's going on. And to the point of just when your cortisol levels, when you're just complete to burnout, you can't have oxytocin. It won't create it. It blocks it. Right. And oxytocin is also what creates empathy. All of a sudden now you're shorter with people. Right. Your own kids. Right? Your own kids, you're looking at them and what before you'd be able to talk to them, walk through a situation with them, you're exploding. Your wife maybe said something that rubbed you wrong, and instead of being able to sit down and have a conversation to talk through it, you're exploding. All of a sudden now it's like you're reacting in ways that you never would have. Right. You're turning down the opportunity to love someone than when you before. Like you would have done that before.
Total opposite of Philippians where it says, hey, be anxious for nothing.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But in prayer for supplication, give it all. Yeah. Let all your requests be known. Yeah. And like you said, hey, the request is, hey, I want strength. The request is I want to be replenished, right? Yeah. The request is, hey, I need my heart guarded. I need my mind guided. There's some things that I'm not understanding right now, right? I need my body guarded right now because I'm experiencing some tiredness and some weariness that I normally don't have. And we'll sit there and take and say, hey, be weary for nothing, but you know what I'm saying? Due season, you'll get through it. It's like, well, my season, I need people. Yeah. Sometimes I think that's where it boils down to is that sometimes we find ourselves in a season where we need another person.
Huge, absolutely.
You know, like you said, to be with another person is the releasing of the oxytocin. It's where it's like, hey, we have this connection, and there's my body automatically, and you think the Lord has created us in this way, right? He's like, hey, listen, I created you to be a community people, a people that are with other people, not by yourself. Hey, Elijah, that's why. Hey, get out of the cave. What are you doing here, right? Get out with other people. I get you're scared, but however, he's like, hey, I've saved some people that's never even bowed, that have bent their knee. Get with those people. Right? Get with other people that share the same commonality that you have. Hey, you know what? Kind of like what the organization that you're part of is like, hey, all of us, we've been here before. We understand what this is right here. And understanding of what this is right here, come together. You know?
Well, and Replenish was started, back in 2016, by Pastor Rod, a good friend of ours.
Oh, man, guy. I love me some Pastor Rod.
Yeah, he said hi, by the way. And basically it was like, hey, we need to come together to help combat burnout, unhealthiness, and lack of support for pastors. And Replenish is there to come across, not just to go, hey, let's get you and teach you how to truly replenish, right? Not just, right, nothing wrong with prayer. We need prayer.
100%.
Absolutely. Prayer is important. Pray always, right?
Pray always. We need to have a dialogue with the Father's heart.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes, absolutely.
But if you don't address some chemical things, then you are having a hard time even receiving God's love. Right? God is trying to pour his blessings on you. I remember myself. I remember getting blessings and being like, oh, just that false humility. Just like, oh, no, yeah, just, thank God. Just, which absolutely 100%. It's all God. I'm not trying to belittle that in any way.
No, absolutely.
Right? But at the same time, not being able to receive his love, receive his blessings, due to all of a sudden now I got this chemical just operating out of a state of stress, right? Feeling like everyone's out to get me. Like there's no one I can trust, right? And when you talk about community, right? I just was reading something recently talking about how there's 3 types of friends. You have a confidant, you have a constituent, and then you have a comrade.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes. I know those terms out there.
You know that?
I know those terms. Yes, I do.
Right?
Yes.
And so your confidant, they're for you.
Yes.
Right? So if you change positions, you change roles, you change places, you change whatever, they're like, hey, I'm here for you. Right? And they say now, literally, they just recently came out, I think it was Auburn University, came out with a study that said that you're lucky to have 3 in your lifetime now. 3 close friends, confidants, right? And those are the people that you like, hey, I need you. Right? I mean, you look at Jesus. He modeled that too. Right? He had that right, and I was willing to fight for him.
Oh, yeah. And the beautiful thing about the confidence is in the word itself. It's someone that you can confide in. It's someone that that when you tell them something, they keep it confidential.
Absolutely.
Right? You trust them.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those. The problem is that, like you said, is we're lucky to have 3 in our lifetime. Yeah. And sometimes what happens is we mislabel people, right? And so
we trust a constituent or a comrade, right? And what's the difference between the three? Well, a confidant's for you, right? A constituent is for the vision, the purpose, the place, right? So they're going to support you as long as you're going to you're going to help them get to where they need to get to, right? Nothing wrong. You need to have those people in your life, right? But they're more about where they're going than they are you.
Yeah, once you change directions, then they're done.
Absolutely. Or you change roles, titles, places. You don't hear from those people anymore, right? Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, And then you have your comrade, right? Which is basically they're for whatever you're against, and it has nothing to do with you. Right? They don't, not necessarily that they like you or don't like you or anything like that. However, what is it? An enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? I'm for what you're against. We're against the same thing. So as long as we're against that same thing, I'm willing to be there for
Absolutely.
You. But the second you're no longer against that, or you're no longer showing anything with that, or you're no longer purposeful to be with you in that, it's like they're not your friend.
Right.
They're going to go. And so if you look at that, 2 of the 3 are not going to be there with you when things change.
Right.
Right. And so if those are the case and you mistrust the wrong one and you start confiding in a comrade or confiding in a constituent, and then all of a sudden now what happens? You feel like, I've been betrayed. I can no longer trust someone. I don't know. And it's sad. And I hate to say this, but when it comes to the church world, typically for a pastor, your confidant is outside your church.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It can't be because like if you're on staff, you have your lead pastor, can't be your confidant. Right, because you're a boss also. They have to lead with righteousness, right? They have to lead. They have to lead and go, hey, what do you want with what you're telling me, what I know, right? It can draw. So you don't feel like you can truly trust. You feel like you have to say things that's going to necessarily line up with your vision, right? Yeah. And so you can't have that. And then if you're a lead pastor, right? Yes, you want to have an elder. Yes, you want to have a board. Yes, the church is structured properly. Absolutely, healthy church, 100%. Yes. But sadly, more than likely, that confidence has to come from somewhere else. It has to come outside that church.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. And so with that being said, right, as far as lead pastors and the trusting and being on staff at church and trusting and being a leader and trusting and saying, hey, we are better together. We hear it all the time. And we have this release of the chemical aspect of the body. Yeah. We have this holding back of the aspect of the body based off of whatever we're going through. Yeah. When it comes down to Replenish, the organization that you find yourself associated with, when it comes down to Replenish, what does Replenish do for a person that's like, hey, I need somebody on the outside?
That's exactly why it exists, right? We come alongside you as a confidant. And one of the things is we don't want to just come alongside you as confident. We want to get you away. We want to get you away for a moment, teach you how to replenish, not just replenish spiritually, right? Because honestly, most pastors, you're pretty good at that, right? I'm just being honest, right? But let's replenish you mentally. Let's replenish you financially. Let's replenish you in your physical health, your emotional health, right? Your relational health, which is different than emotional health.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right? And being able to replenish, like, what do each of those look like? Because if you really take those and you put them into like a balloon, and each one of those things is a valve, right? And it's a two-way valve. You can put in, you can take out. And you have the spiritual side. You're constantly pumping in air, right? And you're like, woo, I'm spending time with God. He's giving me messages. He's speaking to me. Like, I'm feeling all this, right? And all of a sudden, you're thinking that balloon's getting big. And you think you're healthy. However, your emotions aren't necessarily there. That chemical side, right? That physical side, right? You're not working on your physical health, right? Which is important. The temple, right? Taking care of the body. Maybe your relationships are starting to struggle, right? And if those things are an open valve, you're pumping in spirituality, right? And you're pumping in your spiritual health, right? And God's trying to pour into you. The problem is you haven't closed the back door, right? And I remember reading a book and and hearing about churches like talking about closing the back door. So many churches are trying to grow, right? Because let's be honest, the Bible's vision of the church, still the main focus of reaching the masses, is still there. Right? Pastors matter, right? And so, pastors trying to grow a church. It's not to be able to get a stage. It's not so I can get some kind of clout or I want to get this status. It simply is like, I want people to know Jesus.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right?
100%.
I want them to have this relationship with God. I want them to understand who God is in their lives and how he died for them and he loves for them and lives for them, right? Risen again, right? Right? And that we want this for them. We recognize this, right? And we have that. And so I remember reading a book that was talking about, hey, yeah, the problem is they're coming in and you're kind of talking to them and then they're walking out the back door. Right. And it's talking about closing the back door. Why? Because when the back door is just open like that, an open valve, no matter what you bring in, it's just flushing out.
Right.
Right. That's not being a good steward. Right. That's not doing what God's truly called us to do in discipleship and everything. Right. And so the same thing goes for us pastors. Right. The same thing goes for us pastors. I remember Rod reached out to me after my burnout, my point where I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. You know. Yeah, and I remember someone was like, hey, pastor. I was like, oh, no, Sean. I'm not a pastor anymore, right? And I remember hitting that. I remember Rod being like, hey, come to a retreat with me, right? Come to a retreat with me. And how Replenish works, man, is we know that one of the biggest things that are going to get in the way are finances, right? If you tell any pastor, like, hey, come on a trip with me. Oh, I can't afford it. That's great. We take care of that, right? We need support. We need people constantly pouring into Replenish so that we can turn around and pour into other people, right? So when people donate, when people are able to give money and help fund this, we're turn around and sponsor. We're able to turn around and then tell a pastor, hey, you get here, we'll take care of everything else. Lodging, food, don't worry about it. We'll take care of everything else. Get here. We need you here, right? Because let's be honest, people can only drink from the well they're given. So if you're leading a church, you're leading a business, you're leading a home, and you're in that burnout state, you're in that cortisol state, right? That the family can only drink from the well they're given. And especially if you're come on, we're the spiritual leaders of a household, men are, right? And so as a man, even more is what kind of well am I developing in my home? Right? And so I need to make sure that I take care of that. And so we bring them in. We go, hey, come here, come to a retreat with us. Come, let us be a part of this with you. Let us come beside you to help you, not only to be your confidant, right? But also to support you and also to resource you with what healthiness is and healthy leading. Right. I remember hearing hurt people, right? And don't get me started on that. But the thing is the truth is healthy pastors will lead healthy churches.
Say that one more time.
Healthy pastors will lead healthy churches. Come on now. Right? And if you're struggling in that, in any aspect, and you're unhealthy, then what happens is you're an unhealthy pastor leading an unhealthy church. Right? The people can only drink from the well that they're given.
Right. So here's a question for you. When it comes down to Replenish and saying, hey, get here.
Yeah.
What locations are the get here?
Okay, so
what locations are to get here?
They may get a little upset with me on what all I do, but no, the thing is so I went to a ranch in Colorado, up in the mountains, beautiful place. We get the whole ranch to ourselves, and it's not like, hey, here's like 5 bunk beds in one wall. It's like there's this queen size or a king size bed in this room, and there's another room over here. I mean, it's pretty nice, right? Because why? Pastors matter. Pastors matter, right? That's still the goal and the vision for the church, right? And so we need healthy pastors for healthy church. So pastors matter. So we don't just take them over and like, hey, we're going to come over to this place that's got, a cabin with 8 bunk beds in it, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? But the thing is we want to show them, hey, you matter. We want to take care of you. Right. And so we bring them that. I know that we have places in Texas, especially Rod Jones, right? He's in Dallas, Texas. This is where mainly our head office is for Replenish, right? And so we would take them there. There's places in Cabo San Lucas, down in Mexico, some properties, right?
You're talking about places now.
Oh, yeah. So there's like, I want to say like 7 or 8 different properties that people like have come across and said, hey, I have this beautiful resort, I have this beautiful place, I have this beautiful property that, hey, we believe in the mission. We believe in pastors, and we're going to put our money, we're going to put everything else, not just say, hey, we believe in pastors. Like, hey, we want you to be able to come use our property to be able to pour into these pastors, replenish them. And that way, and then, the other thing that's amazing, that blows me away, healthy pastors, you know what else they do? They turn out other healthy pastors. Right? Because come on, multiplying, right? And so as they turn out other healthy pastors, right, then they're going out and they're reaching more people. It's just going back down and just furthering the vision and the goal of just, hey, people need to know that they matter, right? God says you matter, right? And then how do you think it's, right? People, I'm going to get a little fired up for a second, but as a parent, if I tell my kid you matter, right? And then I turn around and I basically destroy myself in work. I destroy myself in serving. I destroy myself in everything else. And then when it comes to replenishing, when it comes to taking care of myself, when it comes to self-care, right? And which sometimes is a tainted word because people can abuse that. But the thing is when it comes to that, and then my kids see me like that, do you think that what I said matters more or what I did matters more?
do.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're going to emulate what you do, right? So if I'm telling my people, if I'm telling people that I lead, I'm telling people in my family, I'm telling, right, whoever I come across, you matter. But then yet I'm not willing to take care of myself. Then I'm not really sending that picture. I'm not sending that image.
No, absolutely. And I love what you're saying here, because you think Jesus really gives us that emulation right there, right? He's like, hey, you know what? I take time and I go get with God by myself.
Absolutely.
But I also go and I speak to my friends.
Yeah.
Right. I go and I speak to my family.
Yeah.
I go and because why? Because I'm out here and I'm dealing with all the people, but I do need time. With just my friends, brothers that are close to me.
Yeah.
I also need time with the Father.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying about replenish, is that replenish says, hey, come get away with your brothers.
Yeah.
And also too, at the same time, we're going to be in a place where you can get away alone with the Father.
Absolutely.
You know, and I love that, because you guys are saying, hey, we want a pastor that is on the verge of burnout, or
not even close.
Right, I was going to say that. If you know for a fact, like you're like, you know what, I'm not there, but what's being said can actually benefit me.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, I want to get there.
Yeah.
This is the part that we're talking about. We're saying, hey, get there, get healthy, remain healthy, so you don't have to get to the place where you have to be like, well, now I have to get re-healthy.
Exactly.
Right? I'm always plenishing, so I don't have to be replenished. And then also too, you think now, since I've been replenished, I also have the opportunity to say, hey, how can I help replenish also to go out and replenish other people?
Amen. That's it, man.
So let me ask you, because you said Pastor Rod was like, hey, come out to Colorado, correct?
Yeah.
And when you went, what was something, just really fast, what was something that you experienced and you were like, you know what? This is something that other leaders could benefit from.
Yeah, man. So first thing, I was like, hey, I'm not a pastor anymore. And Rod was like, so? And then when I got there, he was like, it's not so much so. It's that you may not have the title at one job position right now. He goes, but I know you, Sean. You're still pastoring. You are still discipling. You're still coaching. You're still loving people. He's like, I know you, Sean. He's like, and he goes, even if it's not a title right now, he goes, I know it's coming again. You know. And I was like, we'll see. But the thing is he, that was the first thing. Is he got me to believe in myself again. And it wasn't just him; it was everyone else around me.
Right.
See, I'm sitting in a room. There was like 8 guys, I think was on my, if I remember correctly, right? You have one guy over here who's a multi-millionaire software developer, right? Who volunteers at his church and is trying to help lead a men's ministry. Then you have another guy over here who's wanted in like 15 different countries because he leads underground churches in places where church is illegal. Right? I'm not going to say his name, obviously, but the thing is you have him over here, right? Then you have another guy over here who's basically same age as me, and he's lived since he was 18 in Peru as a missionary, trying to pour into them and trying to reach places, going up the river even further every single time, trying to reach people who've never been reached before, right? And so you're in a room with people, right, who have either or some to a place of burnout, have been there, or going farther than you. Someone else who just came on staff, just learning what a pastor is, right? Had another guy who basically is like, I'm not a pastor. Honestly, I don't even know. I'm kind of a new believer. Right. And he was like, but I lead this organization, right? He's a leader. And so we're just talking to all these different guys, and they all made me realize something. They all made me that we're all going through the same thing, no matter where we're at. Right. And now we may be on different spectrums of it, but we're all at the same place. Right. And they all came around me. And I remember just the camaraderie of them coming together, guys I've never met before. And they're like crying when they're hearing my testimony. And like, I'm so sorry that you experienced that. Right. And they're like, man, I'm so sorry you experienced that. I remember my daughter, I was at the trip, and my daughter ended up having her appendix burst and had to go into emergency surgery, and I'm doing what I can to get back. And I remember one guy drove 5 hours, he drove for 5 hours to get me to an airport to get me out of there. Right. I know another guy Venmo'd me the money Just wanted to make sure there was no issue to pay for my ticket because I had to buy a new ticket because my return flight changed, right? And I just went through everything. And I remember I've never met these guys before. Right. And I remember them laying hands on me, praying for me, praying over my daughter. I remember in the middle of the night, literally waking up and hearing one of the guys, sorry, I get a little teary-eyed, we're hearing one of the guys praying for my daughter in the middle of the night. Right? I just hearing this because we didn't know it was appendix at that time. We're just like, hey, she's not doing good. Right? Yeah. And just hearing that and hearing them come together for me. And then them giving me the tools to look at my life and go, hey, where are you at in your finances? Where are you at in your relationships? Where are you at in your emotions? Where are you at, and in your physical health? Let's really look at these. Let's rate these. Let's do something about these. And then I remember coming back and how they're still texting. We're still texting. Right. 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. Oh my gosh, 3 years ago now. 3 years ago, and there's still get texts here and there. Right. Still get, hey, just checking in. How's everyone doing? Different things like that. And just, hey, Sean, man, I just want to tell you, you impacted me so much when you were there. Believe in yourself again. Right. God's going to use you. Things like that. And just how much it came together for me. Yeah. And then also having these guys, I'm going to be honest, I could tell them anything. They're not going to come back, and I'm not going to see them at the coffee shop and be like, hey, there's that guy who did that, went through that. I was able to sit there and just confide in them and just open up. And it was, it's just amazing. And it brought such healing for me. And then also giving me the tools to not just heal in the moment, but then to walk forward in that health. And then to turn around and tell other people about it. Right. And then being able to, healthily lead others, right, and be able to do that for others, but then also to become an influencer for Replenish, to say, hey, you need Replenish, right? And let's be honest, there's probably a pastor out there right now. You're thinking, that sounds good, but it's not for me. I'm not there. Let me tell you, I wasn't there either. You're not there. It's not going to happen to you until it does. It's never going to happen to you until it does. And I'm telling you right now, before it happens, replenish. Before, don't let it get there, because when you get there, that's when moral failure comes. That's when depression, that's when anxiety, that's when thoughts start to enter your head that never would have entered your head. But because you got there, you let it get there instead of opening up and saying, hey, I don't want to get there. Right. Right. And I think of, let's building a wall. Right, Nehemiah building the wall, right? And when he's building that wall, sword in one hand, building with the other hand, right? And he had to fight off while he's building, right? And if anyone's planted a church, then I don't know if anyone in this room has planted a church before, but when you're planting a church, it's literally what you're going through. Yeah, absolutely. And as a lead pastor, I feel like that story lines up more with probably being a lead pastor than trying to follow just what Jesus was doing when he was leading, right? Or when we look at, all the different things, even Paul writing to the letters, right? When we start looking at that, I feel like that story really probably speaks more about pastoring a church. Because why? Because when you build, then you're going to get attacked. Yeah, absolutely. Right? And you're going to have to defend that. You're going to have to do it. Now, did Nehemiah do that alone? No. Right? Not at all. Not at all. So he built up people. He built up a team to help him. Yeah. Right? And he wasn't doing that alone.
No, he wasn't. And with that being said, not doing it alone. Here's a question. I want to give everybody the opportunity to get the information from you. How can someone say, hey, I need to be part of Replenish. I want to go and be replenished. How can they get plugged in with you and Replenish here in Las Vegas, say, hey, put me on a list to go. What is the information that they need in order to tap into that? Yeah, so there's a website, right? There's a website that you can go and visit. I'm sure they're going to put it up, so we'll be able to have that. That website is a huge way to get in. You can get access there. You can, if you're like, hey, you know what? I hear this. I want to make this possible. I want to donate. I want to send my pastor. I don't care what he says. I want to send him. Right. I don't want my pastor to get to that point. I love him. I love his family. I don't want him to get there. Right. I want to send my pastor. I want to support him. I want to donate. I have a property that, out here, that I have a vacation home out wherever that, I have something that I want to support the vision. That website. If you're like, hey, I want to go on a retreat. I want to get to, I need to get away. I need to be replenished. I need to learn these things. If you're like, hey, I just feel alone. I want support. I need confidence. Absolutely. I need people.
The website, you can hit that up for everything. Everything. Go to the website. You can get access to. You can even see stories, videos of other pastors talking about this. People talking about, hey, this is what Replenish did for me.
Yes.
Right. And so going to that website's huge because it's all there. Okay. Everything's there. You can even hear the story.
Come on, man. So good.
I do want to say this. Okay, when you effectively reach a pastor, you effectively reach their congregation. So over 500 pastors is over 80,000 congregates, right? So we think about that, like, hey, okay, so you're taking some groups, 10 pastors here and there, right? No. By reaching 500 pastors, we've reached 80,000 congregants. 80,000 people's lives are getting flourished with health because of being able to reach those pastors.
Oh, so good, bro. So good, man. Thank you for being up on here, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Hey, we want to thank you guys also, too, for tuning in to Las Vegas United. We pray that you are blessed. And also, too, let's go ahead collectively and avoid burnout, right? Whether you're in leadership or non-leadership, whether you're a believer or not believer, we know that God is here to touch you right where you are and also to bring you to a much healthier place because that is exactly how he created you and I. Other than that, we thank you guys for tuning in to Las Vegas United. We will catch you guys on our next episode. God bless you all, and we're out of here.